Hello and welcome to the latest installment of the Living in Naples channel. I'm James Headley, and today I want to talk a little bit about a mighty fall from the high point of a Saturday Night Live mock commercial to stock going from a 52-week high of over $208 down to just about $66, a little over $66 at the time of this recording. Of course, I'm talking about probably the best known real estate website out there, and that's Zillow. Zillow has just recently announced a significant number of layoffs within the company. They've also put a halt to their iBuyer program. And today I don't want to dig into Zillow per se, nor dance on the grave, because I certainly don't think that the company is going away. This may be a temporary halt, and they may return to the iBuyer market. It seems a little bit doubtful given the sort of catastrophic nature of what's occurred. If you've been following markets anywhere in your market or anywhere else, it's kind of tough to lose that much money in a market that's been going up so in such a unidirectional fashion and so dramatically. That said, what I really want to do today is talk a little bit about the lessons that might be learned for potential buyers and sellers out there from Zillow's recent challenges. And hang until the end. I just really want to talk about the four big pitfalls that I think that you can experience in home shopping and home selling to a lesser extent if you're relying on an online site or resource to do that exclusively. With that said, I appreciate you tuning in today. If you like what you hear and see, please do share and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. And with that, let me just dive right in. One of the worst kept secrets in the real estate industry has been that Zillow's Zestimates can be pretty awful. When you look at the former CEO of Zillow, who sold his home in Seattle a handful of years ago for 40% less than the Zestimate at his own company, that's a pretty stark example. Obviously, just one, an N of one, but it does tell you a little bit about the ability for the algorithms at Zillow to accurately assess home values. The inside joke with a lot of real estate agents is that the A in Zillow stands for accuracy. So when we think about that, what does that tell us as potential home buyers and sellers and as real estate agents about the data and about home valuations? As context, I just want to say that I love data. It's in my career, I've lived with data. I've always been a quantitatively driven sales and marketing professional, and that's really where I start. I've jumped on the more data the better is definitely a mantra. I worked with CRMs extensively throughout my career, led the charge to bring on and to upgrade CRMs in my previous professional life, simply because of the ability for the data to come out of those and drive decision making in a smart way going forward. I personally rarely make any major decisions without running the numbers. So I'm not here to say that the data isn't important, that big data isn't wonderful. I also think that the explosion of transparency and accessibility represented by companies like Zillow to really put some more power into the hands of the many, into the consumer's hands, versus being hoarded by a handful of professionals, large handfuls, but of professionals is a good thing. The more we know, the more that everyone knows, the better potentially. Just the challenge is to make sure that we're making the right kinds of decisions and that we understand the data that we're using to be able to make those decisions and the potential challenges with that data. If you're looking to buy a new car, it's great. You can go out and comparison shop. You find out how much others in your area are paying for a similar car. You can buy or sell a car with a Carvana, a CarMax, an Auto Trader, and all that without leaving your couch. The difference is that when you start to think about home buying and selling, the process can be similar in many respects, But there's a lot greater difference between one home to the next versus one 2018 Toyota Camry to another 2018 Toyota Camry that's loaded with the same options. And so that's where we get into looking at what are those four dangers, those four pitfalls, or at least those four considerations you should make about the data that you can get from your couch when it comes to the home buying and selling experience. Firstly, similar homes nearby comp is really anything but a comp. As you start to think about just location alone, and think about what the difference is. If you live in a city today, think about how much difference a couple of blocks can really make in terms of the neighborhood. When you start to think about our local market here, and we think about a condo in Marco Island or Old Naples, maybe there's a 10% price difference and you're trying to figure out, well, why is one so significantly different than the other when on their surface they may seem to be the same. It could be that there's a good reason for the difference in those sellers' expectations. Is there a new construction coming that might block that great view from the one condo, and that's the reason why it's priced significantly lower than the other? Is there an issue with noise level from ongoing construction that's going to be there for a significant amount of time? All of these kinds of factors, the little nuances that come in local areas are the types of things that can really have a difference and that you aren't going to see simply looking at a set of comps online. Another example is there, and this I really experienced this recently, this past spring, in selling a number of homes in a relatively small development. In that development, there was a fairly significant difference in the selling prices ultimately on those homes, as I represented both buyers and sellers across that community. And the key difference that you really wouldn't understand, there's not a major road, but a fairly well-traveled road, particularly in the early morning hours and in the mid-afternoon hours, because there's a high school on that road, and it was basically the only way to get to the high school. So you had school bus traffic on that road, and a number of the homes sit directly behind a small landscaped area on that road. And so if you don't understand that that is going on and that's a factor, that home may look, a home that would sell for $50,000 or $75,000 less than a home that is less than a quarter mile away, that doesn't have that road as a factor, is something to consider. And you wouldn't have that consideration simply by looking at an online website and looking at the comps there. And then finally, another factor in this that you might want to think about is, what's the rental policy? You aren't going to find what that rental policy is typically if you're looking at an online site. Are you looking to rent this home out? Are you looking at this as a potential Airbnb, for example, or Vrbo? If the limitation is that you can only rent the home once a year and it has to be for a minimum of 365 days, that's a very different equation than if you can rent it every single day with a minimum of one-night leases. So those are the kinds of things that you aren't going to see when you start to think about what's a similar home comp nearby as you're looking online, but that a local agent can talk to you about and reveal to you. Another thing to think about, and another potential pitfall, is to really think about what's your intended lifestyle. And how can that trump proximity, same location when it comes to comps? If you're thinking about right now and the latest home that you bought or that you're renting, when you start to think about what was your commute to and from work, a difference of a half a mile or a mile isn't probably a huge factor, wasn't a huge factor for you. But if you're here in Naples or in Marco Island, a difference of a half mile to a mile from the resort amenities or the beach or the golf clubhouse or the tennis courts, can mean the difference between being able to walk there or having to hop in your car or jump on your bike and strap some things to your back. That really can start to make a difference. So start to have to really think about that factor and what your lifestyle is going to be like. Brings us to the third sort of consideration, potential pitfall, danger of using online sources exclusively, And that's really to understand and recognize the audience for the comps. If you were looking at condos online today in Naples, and you may see two condos in the same community, same exact layouts, same square footage, etc., and one is selling for, again, maybe 10% less than the other, and you think, well, that's a great deal. Think about the audience and the demographic. Maybe not for you personally, but as a resale, if you always want to have that maybe in the back of your mind, potentially, if this isn't going to be your forever home. Stairs here are going to be a challenge at times for some of our demographic. So a first floor unit versus a second or a third floor unit, particularly in a walk-up, we don't have a lot of those, but we do have some, is going to be a major consideration. So that first floor unit gets valued a bit higher than a second or a third floor unit. Another factor along those lines is a little different than a lot of markets in the country. A furnished home here, or a turnkey furnished home, ideally, can really be an attractive option and make a big difference over an unfurnished home. We have so many second home buyers, investment buyers that really just want to be able to immediately close on their home and either come and visit and spend time here right after the fact, or they want to be able to rent it out immediately. So the old adage about being able to figure you're going to get about 10 cents on the dollar for your furnishings, may not always be the case here. Might get a little bit more for them. They may be valued a little bit higher. Certainly will be valued a lot higher by certain buyers simply for the convenience factor, if nothing else, so that they don't have to come in and immediately furnish their new purchase. So they may be looking for that. Are you seeing the whole picture? Other factors that may come in, you just have to understand that. I look at my last two homes here in the Naples area, one in Lely Resort, and now here in Eagle Creek. And you look at comps across those two communities, it's almost impossible. It's like comparing apples to oranges, simply because in Eagle Creek you have a very different fee structure. In Lely, many of the communities, at most, you're going to be required to join the Players Club. You're going to pay $7,500 up front. You're going to pay $4,500 or so per year for the privilege of belonging there. Not an insignificant amount of money, but if you join, if you belong and live in Eagle Creek, you do have to belong to the club. And you're going to be in for $40,000 for a social membership on the front end, $65,000 for a golf membership, and then your annual dues are going to be, depending upon the membership, you're going to be into the tens, into the five figures, $10,000 plus. So that's a fairly significant factor. And as a result, oftentimes a similar home, a similar condo, a similar villa, a similar home, similar on the surface, similar landscaping, views, etc. The homes in Eagle Creek tend to be priced a bit lower, if not significantly lower, simply because of that club factor. If you're going to be a golfer, Eagle Creek to me is a no-brainer. If you're not a golfer, then it's a little tougher to get there, and Lely Resort might be a better place to go. Even though you'll get a little less for your money on the front end, it may pay off for you over time simply because of that club fee structure that I talk about. I appreciate you joining in. The bottom line is that while online home shopping tools are wonderful resources, they aren't the end-all be-all. You simply can't put a value on the local knowledge and the data that's not able to be found in sites like Zillow. And the challenges of, it's clear hopefully from this discussion that there are challenges for a national company using an algorithm to set a price estimate on a home, challenge for them to really get those values right, as proven out by their recent woes. So thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it. Again, please do subscribe and share, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.